because Facebook is no longer allowing us to have videos that sit in Facebook. They only last a month, so I'm moving them elsewhere onto the School of Perimenopause. So I'm just sharing the questions for today. We've got 14 to 21 that I'm going to try and get through. This way of doing things is working for me, so it's great. I got through. It does take a long time to edit the transcript, so if anyone's really good with that stuff and smart about how to set it up, my husband's like, well, just do a control find and get rid of it. But every single instance has the time stamp and then my name. So it's a lot of stuff to get rid of. And it took me 2 hours yesterday to edit it, which is kind of okay because I'm also fixing it as I go. So what I'm doing here is I'm writing a book. I'm sharing my process with you guys because I can. It's something that's possible with technology the way that it is. I am having brain fog myself. So the whole sitting down and writing for hours is not happening. For some reason, I'm able to edit it once it's there, but coming up with each individual thing is not really functional for me right now. So what I'm doing is I'm just going through the questions as we go and then answering. And I do have the live chat up. So if you have questions, if you want me to answer things specifically, I can do that as well. I'm just going to share the School of Perimenopause as well. I'm really proud of this. I've got 73 total members so far. There are over 60 different items in the school now, and there are over 20 of them at the free level. So you can join for free. I got people giving me the business about it because I'm trying to turn my outreach for women in perimenopause into a job. And I guess people don't like it, which is really strange, right? Because we're all about, oh, women supporting women, and we should all do our best to do our best, and yada, yada, yada. And then someone like me tries to turn it into a job, and it's crickets. So, dude, if anyone's out there actually looking at these videos and listening to me, please make a comment or like or share, because it feels like I'm screaming into the void right now, which I don't really mind doing, but I do know that once this is actually a book, people are going to be interested in it, which is a little bit frustrating. It's one of the things I don't like about status. Status is given and it can be taken away. It's given when someone else decides what you're doing is important, which makes it completely external and not the kind of thing that you can control or influence, because it's not ultimately about you. It's about how other people perceive what you're doing, which bugs me. Because what you're doing, how you're perceived and what you're trying to do should be based on what you're actually doing, not based on what someone else thinks about whether it's valuable or not, which is why I don't usually try out for contests and, join. Like the singing ones are the worst, I think, really. Anyway, they're fun to watch, but they do have a tendency to exploit people and their talent. So we are on to question number 14. So January 14, I was trying to tell my husband a funny story, but he had to interrupt me for a moment, and then I genuinely couldn't remember what I was saying. It's so embarrassing. He definitely noticed. What do you do when you're caught in a brain fog moment? There's a few different things going on here. One is that you're probably frustrated because you were trying to tell a story and now you can't finish a story because you got kerfuffled somewhere in the middle. That's embarrassing. So then you have the feeling of embarrassment, which we talked about before, in terms of now you're judging yourself as being flawed somehow because you can't remember. And you got caught, which means you feel that you're in the wrong somehow. Something is wrong with you. And those are all mindset issues, things that can be really worked with. You can't do anything about having the brain fog other than all of the things that we listed before that do help lifestyle wise, and adding prescriptions on top of that can potentially help as well. I've heard that a lot in my group, that people who start with hormone replacement therapy, if they get the right blend, the brain fog does improve. What can you do when you're caught in a brain fog moment? Honestly, if you're trying to tell a funny story and you get caught in that moment, laugh about it, make a joke about it. I personally have seen this in myself. When I have a brain fog moment and I get really upset about it, it makes everything worse. Now, the other person is really uncomfortable. I'm really uncomfortable because I'm judging myself and upset. And the conversation, the flow of the conversation is then completely derailed because, I'm upset, they're upset. No one's having a good time at that point. Can you make a joke about it? Can you laugh at yourself? If you think about the best comedians, the ones that we laugh at most are the ones that make jokes about themselves. Like Pete Davidson made a whole career on just making fun of himself. He has mental illness. He could be completely depressing the entire time if he wanted to. His thoughts are probably pretty depressing. But he makes a decision. He made a decision to turn to humor and to, inform and entertain other people while he's making fun of himself. We want to be taken seriously, but if you're in the middle of a funny story, see if you can't make it funny for yourself. And one thing you can look into is laughter yoga. Laughter yoga is really fascinating. I did a whole training on, I'm a laughter yoga leader as well as a yoga therapist. It's part of my training. And the science behind laughing and feeling good hormones and all that stuff, it works. And you don't actually have to. That's one of the things one of my yoga friends said when I talked about maybe being interested in that. It's artificial because you're forcing yourself to laugh. And it's true. At first, you do force yourself to laugh, but then it doesn't take long, especially if you're doing it in a group with people, that the laughter turns real. So that's my take on telling a funny story and losing track of your thoughts. Okay, January 15th. I see things about brain games online sometimes. Do these actually help at all? And yes, they do. There's science behind the brain games. There's all kinds of different things that I learned when I was studying Dawn Yoga, which is body and brain function yoga. It's Korean by Ilchi Lee, and it has come to Canada and the West in a similar way as, the asana postures that we know from most yoga studios. The difference is their technique feels more like a calisthenics class. It feels more like a gym class in junior high school, maybe. But it's all about getting the left side and the right side brain functioning and the left and right side body moving at the same time to try and help your overall brain function. And I have had that work for me really, really well. There's also like just brain games you can find that you can download on your phone, and memory games of any kind. My aunt was a nurse and she used to swear by doing the see now if there is a brain fog moment, what's the game show with the crosswords? I'll probably have to look it up. But you guys all know what I'm talking about. And she would watch that every day. Or Jeopardy. We know for sure when we're not using our memories or when we're not using our brain power, the brain is really smart and it sort of shuts things down if they're not needed. So as much as ask Google, or right now ask Chat GPT is a thing, it's not good for your brain function. I'm not saying don't look things up. I look things up. I'm saying try and see if you can remember it first. Wheel of Fortune? No, that's the one where they spin no, yeah, that's the one, Wheel of Fortune. See? When you don't fret, it comes back later. So brain games, look into it. Anything you want to do, like honestly, one of the simple games you can do is playing with a ball and just trying to go back and forth between left and right, left and right, left and right with your feet, or using your non-dominant hand to try to catch the ball. So throwing the ball and catching the ball with your non-dominant hand. And playing instruments, playing music is really good for that because you're using your hands and doing slightly different things in different time, but at the same time using both sides of your brain. Creativity is really good for brain function too, of any kind. Make something. Banana bread. Try a different recipe. It all counts. Question for January 16th. What happens if I can't adjust my schedule, get out of the important meeting, or reschedule my obligations, and I have got to show up all brain foggy? What should I do when I forget something important in front of my coworkers or other important people? And this does happen. I do a lot of presenting online. I do classes and I teach people one-on-one, and I work with one-on-one clients. And this does happen sometimes where you do have a brain fog moment. I try to remind myself that important people is relative, and we're all important. We're all different. We're all special, and we're all going through our own challenges. When you have to show up all brain foggy, you can tell people that you're just not feeling very well today. Honestly, you are not feeling very well today. It's true. You're not making it up. It's not an exaggeration. And people understand that, you know. One thing I've done at work one time, a long time ago, my coworker noticed that I wasn't quite with it and asked me if I was feeling okay. And I said no. And they asked if I had taken cold medication. And I said yes. And I hadn't taken cold medication, I lied. But I might as well have. I was in that same kind of foggy state, and it worked as far as what can you do to get through it at that moment, you know? Not that I'm a big proponent. I'm not, you know, into lying in general. I don't recommend it. But in a pinch, and especially as I just agreed with them about what was going on, and the effect was pretty much the same, right? Brain fog is a lot like being sick. It's a lot like having a concussion. It's a lot like having a cold or just having a bit of a flu, having a touch of something. People can understand that. And they usually appreciate that you showed up anyway if you have an important meeting. And they'll give you a little bit of leeway as long as it doesn't happen all the time. So that's the sticky point. That's where taking care of yourself can really come in handy and help you to avoid that happening as much. January 17th, how can I keep better track of my obligations? I used to be able to multitask and take care of so many different things, but now I can't answer a call and finish typing my sentence. I have to stop and only do one thing at a time. I'm afraid of letting something important slide. So we addressed this a little bit earlier in one of the videos. There actually has been evidence to show that we think we're multitasking, but we're not. We're just not finishing anything, and we're not quite all there at any given time. One of my teachers actually told me she felt that some of my inability to focus was really because I never did one thing at one time. I was always kind of, you know, on my phone, writing down notes and in the middle of reading a book and trying to deal with a client and rescheduling this, and that I wasn't ever really present to what I was doing. So in the last, well, over a year now, I'm at 400 days of meditation every day. And I'm really trying to only do the one thing at a time, because I thought I would just experiment with it and see how true it was. And it really is true. Multitasking is bad for brain fog. It contributes, I feel like it contributes to the brain fog. At the very least, it gives you a very bad habit of being scatterbrained and all over the place and doing too many things at once. You're more likely to make mistakes. So having to stop and only do one thing at a time is good. It's actually good for you. How can I keep better track of my obligations? Now that's, again, using the technology that we can have where we have a calendar. I know I have to use a couple of different calendars because of my work and the way that I work. So I have different calendars, but I have them all synced to one calendar in the Google Drive, the Google Docs, attached to my email. So that's the main calendar, and I check that for everything. And I will put everything in there, like working on this every day is in my calendar. I don't necessarily do it at the right time, but I get a reminder that I need to do it, and it helps me to stay on track. And I definitely put every meeting, every obligation I have with other people, coffee dates, going for a walk, anything that I do with my friends, it's in the calendar, because I have had friends forget me. They forget me, and it hurts. It doesn't feel good, but I know they're not doing it on purpose. I know it's because they are, like me, multitasking and scatterbrained, and so I'm no longer doing that. One thing you could do is just do an experiment and say, for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to only do one thing at a time. So when I'm watching a show, I'm going to just watch the show. When I'm on the phone, I'm going to just be on the phone. When I'm looking at Facebook, I'm going to just be on Facebook. When I'm whatever it is, and see how you feel. See if you don't feel less scatterbrained. See if you aren't a little more present. Do the checklist, the comprehensive symptoms checklist at the beginning of the experiment, and then do it again after the 3 weeks is up. And you'll see if it made any difference. You'll start to see a difference in your symptoms. January 18th, I hear about omega-3 fatty acids and brain health, but it seems pointless. Do I have to buy the most expensive kind to get help from the supplements? So this is just a, in general overview of supplements first. I've really found there's a huge difference in which brand of a supplement I take. For me, I started with a really expensive omega-3 fatty acid that was recommended by a naturopath, which works for my chronic inflammation condition. So if I'm having chronic inflammation or starting to feel chest pain, I take that one, and it works really quickly if I'm mega dosing. But I never really notice a difference with it as far as, if I'm taking it or not taking it, with my general overall feeling of dryness or wellness in my body. So I'm pretty sloppy about how I take it. Unless I'm having inflammation, then I take it, and it definitely makes a huge difference. And then I just started taking a different one that's specifically for dry eye. And I've been sloppy about taking it because I was also starting a prescription, and I had a bit of a reaction. So I wanted to see if it was the prescription, and it's not the prescription. So I can start introducing that dry eye omega-3 fatty acid again. I will say, depending on how you buy it, you might be able to get a bit of a discount. I like to buy direct from distributors. So I'll go onto their website and buy directly from them if possible and get it mailed to my house. They'll give you a bit of a discount usually for doing that. Or I will buy from Amazon and do a subscription if it's something that I can't just get from the store. I find that I have a wide variety of different supplements that I take on a regular basis, and it's hard to find them all in one place. So that can be a little bit frustrating. But just so you do not have to buy the most expensive kind. It's not necessarily the most expensive kind that's going to help you most. And you have to experiment a little bit with which kind you're taking, because my personal thought on the matter is everybody's biology is a little bit different. And so what I will take the supplement and my body goes, oh, yay, yum, 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 and uses everything great. It may not work for someone else. And it doesn't mean that omega-3 fatty acids aren't worth trying or using. It just means like you have to try a different kind until you find the one that really works for you. And it's not necessarily the most expensive one. However, there are certain brands that work a little bit better for me. So I'm thinking I will put in a link at the end of the book with the ones that I like. But just really quickly, anything Jameson brand. Jameson brand is a Canadian company. They're really good about how they source their materials, and their supplements are easy to get and inexpensive comparatively, and they all work. Everything I've taken Jameson, like honestly, I've had times where I'm taking something, I'm like, I don't know if this is working. And then I'll try the Jameson brand and it'll work. And I get points for it from shoppers. So don't give up, just try something different. January 19th. How can music help me with memory? Is it true that music lasts longer and associations can be used to help remember important things? Yes, it is true. Music can be used to help you to remember all kinds of things. And the interesting thing about music and memory it is saved in the brain in multiple places. I know this because I'm a trained musician. I have a degree in music, and I also have a certificate in music therapy. So I've learned a lot about how the brain works. And my dad was a career musician who had dementia. So I got to watch how he couldn't remember how to use his spoon, but he could tell you all about E7 and why that chord was important as a substitution in this band in 1952. So where was that memory stored, right? That is the question. And we don't really understand how memory works or even what memory is and why people will remember things differently. That is true, which is, on another topic, the rant of, you know, someone being called a narcissist because they were misunderstood. It's just so unfair because I have had that and everyone has had that where they said, that's a black dog. And someone gets mad at them about that. And then they don't check it out. Like, check it out. What did the person mean by what they said? Because they might not have meant that that dog had lower status or, you know, like whatever. Those ideas might not have had anything to do with what they were saying. They were just pointing out that there's a dog over there that's black, as in it's the color of the dog's fur. And that's all they meant. They didn't mean anything else by it. So checking it out, or even how that's remembered. Remember that time? I have a whole story about a dog that I remember and my sister remembers, and my uncle does not remember, but we think it was his dog. So who's right in that story? All of us. We're all entitled to our own memory. So if you had, like, when I used to go to school, if I had a test that was very specific with specific terminology, things that I had to remember, dates I had to have in mind, I would write a little song about it. And it would always help me to remember those details, especially if they were boring and dumb and I didn't see the reason to remember them. I had to do something. So if you wanted to work with memory and music, some things that you can do is listen to music that you listened to when you were a teenager or a young adult. That will remember, you'll remember things about yourself and why you do things a certain way, and why your characteristics are the way that they are, because a lot of our personality is developed in our teen years, I think, how we function in the world. Teen and young adult is kind of like the sweet spot. So when you're trying to reach a dementia care patient, you play them the music from their teen years or their young adult years. That's the best way to reach them. Long-term memory. So if you can make any associations with that. So let's just say your favorite song was Born in the USA when you were a teenager, and you have to remember something specific for your job. You can write it into that, go to work with apples. Thursday is sharing day. I don't know, whatever it is. But experimenting with that is really good. And it's extremely good for mood. So if you're in a bad mood, listening to music almost always helps. It's almost a guarantee. January 20th. How do I keep my mind flexible? I hear about the brain literally hardening in dementia, and I don't want to experience anything like that myself. How do I keep the mind flexible? Well, those are the same kind of things, using omega-3 fatty acids, making sure you drink enough, get those healthy fats, eat those avocados. And yeah, the brain can literally harden during dementia. Don't smoke cigarettes, limit your alcohol intake, don't abuse any. I think personally, like, abusing caffeine can be an issue for this too. I know that people don't want to experience dementia. Nobody does. But one of the things about keeping the mind flexible is learning. That's one thing that you can look at. So, I mean, part of you might be thinking already, oh man, this girl, she's just recommending that I read all these flippin' books. I can barely focus. How am I going to do that? This is overwhelming and crazy and hard. You could also look at it like, well, I want to learn about what's happening so that I can help myself as much as possible. And learning is always good because it challenges your brain. If you don't want to really dive into learning all about menopause or perimenopause, you can decide to work on learning a different language. I have one friend who decided to learn Spanish recently just for fun, and there's apps for that too that will help you to learn another language. Or apparently, if you wanted to learn Spanish, a good way is to watch telenovelas, basically daytime soap operas, because they keep come up with these themes of, things that we know, right? Oh, that's her husband, and this is not her, that's not his wife, that's his wife's best friend. These kind of things, these kind of scenarios are familiar to us, so the language has a better chance of sticking. One of the things that I did was medical terminology. I had no interest in learning medical terminology, but I had to for my yoga therapy certification. So it was really good though. I would never normally put myself into that kind of situation where I was trying to learn words that are not English because I'm dyslexic. But I learned a lot, and it's helped me because now when people are talking to me about a medical diagnosis, even if I'm not familiar with that particular thing, I can tell what it is by the name and get a general idea. And then I have all the textbooks from school, so I can look anything up. All right. Now, January 21st. Every time I mess up, forget something, or make a mistake, I panic. I feel uncomfortable, anxious, and sweaty. It's embarrassing. What can I do to stop the panic so it doesn't make a bad situation worse? There's a lot in this question. Panic is when your body kind of takes over and says, you have to run from the bear. It's not a logical thing. It's not the kind of thing that you can just decide to not have. You can't be like, oh, I'm not going to have panic. It'll happen sometimes, especially during perimenopause. If our anxiety level is up, it doesn't take much to tip us over into panic. So preventing panic is, getting that stress hormone down, exercise, eating well, drinking lots of water, doing mindfulness meditation, having some kind of stretching or calming or nature walk, things you have to do for yourself to try and bring the stress level down. And then if you start to feel uncomfortable and get sweaty and maybe have a hot flash and heart palpitations and all of that kind of thing, one of the things you can do now, this one isn't very subtle, people would notice that you're doing it, is breathe in through your tongue. So you make a little straw with your tongue between your teeth and your lips and breathe in and then let go of the air. So I was doing this once when I went on a walk with a friend where it got too hot. And she was like, oh my God, she's a friend I met in school, so she knew I had a chronic inflammation condition, and she thought I was going to pass out because I was leaning against the tree doing this breathing. I wasn't going to pass out. I was utilizing two different things. Leaning up against a tree is very calming and soothing. The tree is very grounding. It literally is in the ground. So you can lean on the tree and it'll help you feel less panicky, less anxious. And then breathing in, this is the cooling breath. It cools you down, and then you can release some heat, breathing in cooler air and releasing heat. You can't do it without people noticing what you're doing, but it does work. It works very quickly. You can also, again, just tell people what's happening. Be honest, tell them what's happening. Okay, I think we got a really good coverage of everything there. So I'm up to the 21st already, and then I only have 10 more to do, and that's the whole chapter for brain fog. Take care.